My name is Greg Davis, and I'm a judge for the Connecticut Superior Court. When I think about 250 years, I think about my association with the Hartford Public Library, which is just over 50 years, because I recently turned 60, and I grew up in the North End, just off of Blue Hills in Bowles Park. And there was the Blue Hills Library that we would walk up the hill and go to the library as a young person. And when I think about the library, I also think about the branches, because I had an uncle who lived on Baltimore Street, and whenever I went to his house, he took me to the Albany branch. And I had an aunt who lived on Barber Street, and when we went to her place, we went to the Barber branch. And so as a young person, the Hartford Public Library was a place that was part of the fabric of what I knew. And it was a place where, like most kids, little person, you go and you grab books and you read the books and you meet other kids, and it was just a fantastic place to be. And so that sort of birthed my association with the library. And then, fast forward all these years, and I was a practicing lawyer downtown Hartford at the Travelers, and Jerry Sullivan was on the board, and Brad Noel, who had been one of my guidance counselors at Weaver, both approached me and asked me to have lunch and started talking about the library and asked me if I'd be interested in serving on the board. And this was back in 2005, 2006. And just knowing them and how much they poured into the community, and I thought about how much the library meant to me and sort of my community and my friends, it was a no-brainer. I was like, sign me up. And so I was very, very excited to join the board. And as you probably know, I joined in 2006, and I'm still on the board, and I think my term ends next month. Because of my current job, I sort of have to filter off because I can't do the things I have been doing for a number of years with the library. I tell people all the time that there were two institutions that really were fundamentally important to my upbringing, and that's the Boys and Girls Club and the Hartford Public Library. And without those two places, I think my course would have been much different. I don't want to say that I would have been a statistic. I don't think that would have been the case, but I don't think that the opportunities that presented themselves to me would have been available but for my association with the library and the Boys and Girls Clubs, and just sort of that guidance and the opportunity to sort of expand my vision beyond, Bowles Park and Blue Hills. And I thought that going to the library and reading and just getting into that expanded my dreams, my vision. For me, it surprises me because I know, at least in the city of Hartford, one of the goals of the library is to make sure that all students have a library card. And I tell young people all the time, go into the library because they're so much more than just books. There's a wealth of information available. Go there and you'll be surprised how you fall in love with the institution, because there's so many things to expand upon and to help you do whatever you want to do. I mean, I've been impressed with the U Media Center, the technology, the programming, just all the things that young people can do and get hooked on. It's a much better place to be hooked on than, on the street. For me, the library has just been a lifesaver, and my kids took full advantage of it. And I hope and pray that more kids continue to use the library and get to appreciate how valuable it is. And I would say, as a young person, I took it for granted. You don't realize it until you're older. You look back and say, wow, if it wasn't for that experience, where would I be? But I do think that the library is a lifeline to education, to learning, and to growing. And not only that, but more importantly, the people who are there, the people who work there, the people who invested in making sure that our young people get what they need. When I think of the library, I think about transformation, because it's never too late to get into the library, to find your vision, to find your goal. And I tell people, keep an open mind when you go in there, because there are so many things. There are people who complain. I remember a couple of council members saying the library does too much. And I used to say, no, you can never do too much. In our community, we need more than. It should never be just enough. Power, transformation, and changing lives start in the library. And I think, particularly as a parent, it's great for you to bring in your young person into the library, and for your child to see mom or dad picking up a book, getting a DVD, doing research, applying for jobs, whatever it may be. But I really think in our community, I look at the branch system and people say, well, do you have too many branches? Like, no. And I know for myself as a kid that when I looked at the library, it was a big place to me. We didn't often go downtown to the main branch. It was the branch of my neighborhood. That was it. And so I think that when people have the opportunity, or they should take advantage of the opportunity to use the library, because first of all, it's free and there are so many resources, and the people who work within the institution are there to help and they want to help. And it's just a wealth of knowledge and information that is just always there. And if you want it, you can find it, whether it's for a job or for a hobby or to learn a language, learn to type. I think about my mom's best friend who passed a couple years ago, learned to use the internet at the age of 85 at the Hartford Public Library. And that blew me away. She's like, look, I'm going to the library because I'm taking a class on the internet. She had used the library in the past, but never really realized the resources that are available at the library. That's just a story, but there's so many more stories of how the library has impacted individuals and changed lives. I'm a community first person. I really think that the library is key to the advancement of the people in our community. And we need to take advantage of that. I think the schools should be partnering more with the library so that we're really pushing home how important it is. I hear people say, well, people aren't reading books as much today because it's all online. It's like, no, brother. Not in the city. You come into Hartford, folks, they can get online books, but I still want people to open up that book and smell the page and turn the page and fall in love with that. And it's just a tremendous opportunity. And I think about for our younger adults, I just say it's not too late. You can find your voice, you can find your vision, you can build your dreams, and they can start at the library. When I think about our elected officials, for me, it's about educating them, right? Because some of them, they know what the library does, they support it, but when you sit them down and do a 45-minute presentation about the bandwidth of all that the library does, they're overwhelmed, particularly our council members, because I think they're the ones closest to the community. We should be having sit-downs with them, bringing them in, letting them know what's going on, and encouraging them to attend library events in their communities, coming into the branches, and just spreading the word. And when I think about the library, when I joined the board in 2006, it became a mission of mine to stay on the library board as long as I could, to help repay a debt that I could never repay without being on the board. That was one of the ways that I felt that I could sort of reach back and give back to the community, because I got so much from the library and continue to get things from the library that when I had the opportunity to be the chair of the board, I was like, I'm going to do this because this is going to impact my community. I am going to make sure, not force, but work in tandem with management to make sure that we are doing all the things that we can to touch the folks that need it the most. That's been very important to me, and I was just so happy when we brought in Bridget, because I thought that she had a vision that I thought was going to help Hartford grow. And when we opened the Park Street branch, I was so happy like a little kid, man, because it was something that was much too long in the making. And we're looking at expanding Albany and all these wonderful things. Many cities are not growing, or they're not expanding like we are in Hartford during these difficult economic times. But I give kudos to leadership and folks who know how much the library brings to the community, and so we're trying to grow it to make sure that folks, even if they don't know it, then we're sort of force-feeding, like, here it is, you better come, because if not, you're going to miss out. But I just think it's a tremendous place, and I think our elected officials, the more that we can educate them, I think it inspires them to sort of get the word out and get into the community, because it's a resource that the city invests a lot of money into, and it only makes sense that they are encouraging their constituents and others to take advantage of all the services that are provided at the library. We talk about Hartford being one of the progressive and one of the best urban libraries in the country, but I say, okay, it doesn't just have to be an urban library, it just be a library, one of the best libraries in the country because of what we do. And I think it speaks a lot about the commitment that the city has and how much respect leaders in the city have for the library, recognizing all of the work. I cannot think of the brother's name who was the first library director. Amazing story, man. And I think back to how many years ago that was now, and he was just ahead of his time. And he was a brother who was committed to education, the community. He grew up in a community. I remember when we were first opening the Albany branch, and there was some talk about naming opportunities, and I was like, this guy Spencer, someone like this deserves to be a staple, and we all need to know about him for what he did for the city. But I just think that generational the library has continued to be vital to the city of Hartford and its residents and the people. And I think that we will continue to be relevant. And what I like most about what we do here in Hartford is I think Hartford is always in the front of the curve. We're creating new things and picking up on new projects and opportunities. And my guess is it's been like that forever, going all the way back to Spencer Shaw. There we go. Right. I would like to see the library continue to focus on folks in the community and to pay tribute and recognize some of those folks who have either impacted the library or who have received benefits from the library, because I think those are the stories that resonate the most with folks in the community.
Thank you for listening to 250 Stories, a production of HPL Studios at Hartford Public Library. This episode was written, produced, and recorded by Christopher T. Brown, audio edited, mixed, and mastered by Sam Sigmund, edited by Faith Lucas, and with photography and graphic design support from Hartford Public Library's communications team and the Hartford History Center. For more information on this project, visit www.hplstudios.hplct.org. New episodes release every Tuesday, so subscribe to stay tuned.